Hi, my beautiful friends. I am really excited and curious about this Sagittarius new moon and total solar eclipse happening on December 4th. The themes that are coming up with this solar eclipse have to do with meaning making, storytelling, and how whole we're feeling in ourselves as we look back on the last 18 months. Are we telling stories and making meaning that has to do with our failures, where we didn't show up, where we didn't have the energy, where we failed, where we felt fear? Or is it a story that's a little more cohesive, that reflects the wisdom we gained, has self-compassion for the times where maybe we weren't doing all the things, and is curious about what we have gained and understood about ourselves? And that's what's really important, and why I want us to focus on this total solar eclipse as a time of deep meaning making and reflection. And that is because not only is this the second eclipse in this particular eclipse season, we just had one in Taurus, full moon in Taurus, lunar eclipse just happened. This is also, and now we're here, the second eclipse in Sagittarius. This is also the last eclipse in Sagittarius that we will have for a while, for many years. We started having eclipses in Sagittarius in June 2020. So it's been almost exactly 18 months of doing the work of reflecting and reviewing and understanding and evolving via the energy of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius has to do with philosophy and big vision, right? This is about the view we take of the world around us. And it has been a challenging time. The south node of the moon has been in Sagittarius, having us question what we want beauty to look like, what we want our philosophies to look like. So this is also an eclipse that is closing out an 18-month cycle. And I think that is so potent and powerful. But rather than maybe getting a little worked up about needing to work with this eclipse very intentionally and make sure we're doing it all right, I want us to just take a deep breath. Just shake it out. This does not need to mean that this solar eclipse is going to knock us all off of our feet. What I really do feel, though, is this can be a wonderful time of reflection and storytelling, and really enjoying the ride of telling that deep, cohesive story, telling a story that is about depth and meaning. It doesn't need to be happy-go-lucky all the time, even though Sagittarius is a sign of optimism and hope. And this is as well a new moon and a solar eclipse where we are getting to release and come home to our optimism. And I'm all for that. If you want to tell a really optimistic story about the last 18 months, please, I love it. But if you're feeling a bit more mixed about the last 18 months, you've had maybe more challenges, more setbacks, more grief, I don't necessarily expect you to write a story that's like, it was amazing. I think for me, what true joy in storytelling is about the self-witnessing and the self-compassion and the depth with which we tell the story and the empowerment with which we tell the story. So rather than denigrating ourselves for where we feel we failed and repeating that kind of core belief over and over again, this is going to be a time where it's maybe witnessing of, yeah, I was working with this amount of energy in this context, and look what I learned, look what I went through, and making it mean something that is valuable to your heart. And I think that's what's so important about this solar eclipse. So we have Sun, Moon, and Mercury all working very closely together. The Sun and Moon obviously are in a conjunction, creating the solar eclipse. Mercury is just a few degrees away, hanging out in Sagittarius. And this is amplifying that storytelling energy. It's creating this it can be kind of a busy-minded kind of energy. But this can also be a really wonderful time to get creative about the way you're telling the story. And that's what's exciting to me. That's what's intriguing to me. We can often let the old core beliefs that we've had since we were young, be the ones that kind of subconsciously drive our storytelling about how we handle challenge or difficulty. And this is the kind of eclipse where we can look at that original storytelling from when we were like 2 or 3, and we're making meaning out of things we don't understand quite yet. And we can instead be here in the person we are today and be making meaning from this vantage point. So I think this is really important. The other big aspect to this total solar eclipse is that Lilith, dark moon Lilith, is at 15 degrees of Gemini. So opposing this new moon, this solar eclipse, we have Lilith, the troublemaker, the dark feminine. We can't get into a whole deep discussion of Lilith, unfortunately, in this chat. But what I will say is Lilith is about embracing the part of ourselves that is also maybe had rage, some of the harder emotions that I think are often kind of ostracized by us culturally: grief, rage, rebellion, frustration, all of those. I think this is also a chance to really allow yourself to feel all that you've been through these last 18 months, right? And to witness and honor the parts of yourself that have felt frustrated and confused and all of those things. There's no need for us to deny that part of ourselves in order to be philosophizing in ways that feel really, really good. I think that's rule one. The more we try to like force hyper positivity, the less positive we're actually going to feel. The more that we really fully self-witness and with self-compassion, the more we're going to be able to tell a cohesive, deep story that shows our true humanity and our wholeness and our integrity in having all these experiences and yet still having deep meaning. So it is a powerful solar eclipse, I'm going to admit. And in the context of this as well, okay, not only are we finishing out 18 months of work with the South Node in Sagittarius and a lot of reflection on that, but this is also going to be happening very close to the last Saturn and Uranus conjunction of 2021. And there have been, square. Saturn and Uranus have been squaring off a lot of 2020, and there's been 3 different ones, and this will be the 3rd one. And I just want to bring this up briefly because that square, while it's not hitting onto this moon or sun or anything like that, it's happening in the context of this solar eclipse. This final square between Saturn and Aquarius and Uranus and Taurus is about what it is that is dissolving and what it is it's okay to leave behind. So I just want to point out as well that this is an eclipse, this is a time of reflection, and this is a great time to also kind of ruminate on what it is that has left the building and what it is that has maybe left your orbit. And some of that could be really great. Sometimes things that leave are amazing that they left and that we can move forward. And some things may be a little bit more bittersweet or a little bit more complex. But in general, this eclipse is just going to be a really deep time of reflection. And I think the more deliberate we are about sitting with that, the better. So really, it doesn't need to be some big ritual, but just even over the next few days, around this eclipse. It can be happening on the eclipse or the days before, the days after, I think are amazing for reflecting on this. Wherever it is that feels right for you, reflect on it, write the story, write it out, let's see what comes of it. I think this eclipse as well, though, has to do with our yearning for expression. And this is a great time to let yourself express, whether that be, I like to write things out. That's a really great way to concretize, like make something concrete, understand something that is in your energy field, making it concrete. But you could also do this in movement, in art, in conversation. This is a wonderful time to express. And like I said, the big themes and questions that are coming up. What's the story you want to tell about the last 18 months for you? We don't need to be responsible for telling the story of the whole of humanity, but what is the story you want to tell about your journey of the last 18 months? What meanings do you want to make out of the experiences that you have had over the last 18 months? And what do you want that to look like? What do you want to take away from the last 18 months? What do you want to feel you are taking with you that are deeper tools, deeper sets of wisdom? Really give yourself credit for that. Are there any ways you talk about yourself, your philosophy, your life, the way you're moving through it that are feeling painful, right? Are you talking about your energy levels in a way that is cynical and pessimistic and harsh? You know, are you talking about where you've felt you've had limitations in a way that's very self-judging? This is a great time to catch any places where we continue to talk about ourselves and our journey in ways that are cynical, pessimistic, and self-critical, right? And to instead write a story that is about how we can give ourselves credit and energy and restore ourselves from a place of self-compassion in the process, right? I know that a lot of you are going to say, well, it's important to take accountability. And I agree. Like, we do want to take accountability where maybe we wish we had done something better, sure, right? Or where we realize we dropped the ball or something like that. But there's a difference between just like taking the accountability and saying, yep, that happened, and continuing to just replay it over and over and over in your mind and starting to live in a story about yourself that is all you can ever be, right? There's a big difference there. So this is really about really getting honest and paying attention to the way you create your cosmology, the philosophy of your life. That's what this Sagittarius energy is all about, the way that we create a philosophy of this life. So with that, let's pull a card. And see what other message wants to come through along with what we've just been chatting about. I'm really excited. You know, we're in the last weeks of South Node in Sagittarius. As a Sag rising, that is an exciting thing for me. I've learned so much these last 18 months. And I'm very grateful for so much of the wisdom I have gained. And I'm also really curious to see what new energies we'll be working with. Three of Cups wanted to come out, the Muses. It's so funny to me, and actually the bottom of the deck is the Lovers, so let's include that as well. It's so funny to me that the Three of Cups became, in kind of the gossip drama world of tarot, the third party situation. It's just really funny to me because this is literally the symbolism here is the Muses. The ones that cultivate that spark of creative joy, kind of making something out of nothing, you know, a poem flowing through you suddenly, a painting flowing through you suddenly, an idea just wanting to come out and be expressed. That's what Three of Cups is about. I mean, this is also a celebratory card, right? This is about creating together. This is about exploring together, celebrating together. And while eclipses, yes, a lot of time they're spoken about as a time of kind of deep work, right? Like it's about shedding a skin. It's about transformation. It's about going deep. That's great. You know, I'm all for that. I think it's possible that in doing that, there is a sense of celebration and joy. There is a sense of communion. There is a sense of connection that happens in that. And that's what wanted to come out here. And even with the Lovers, this is a card about connection. This is a card about expression. This is a card about being able to communicate. You know, there's a me and there's another, and we're having a communication. What a miracle. This is about clarifying the way we use communication, the way we use ideas. How are we using them? How are we expressing? Are we really speaking, using our full voice, right? And this is not about trampling people down and forcing them to hear your opinion, right? This is just about how we want to communicate, how we want to tell our story, how we want to envision it. And don't we, in the end, really want to envision and make meaning from a place of deep love and joy and magic? Even if we have a really strong skeptic, even if we have inside of us a really strong guardian or a really strong, you know, wary warrior that's inside of us that says we can't have the beautiful vision. Deep down, isn't it what we truly want? And there's no reason we need to beat ourselves up or stop ourselves from just witnessing a little bit of that magic and writing a story that reflects that magic. And I think that is so important here. I think that's so important. I think that we really, as a culture, and as individuals, can rewrite what it means to have a solar eclipse, and that we get to decide that this can be a time of beauty and healing and connection. It does not need to mean that we are going to be in pits of despair, feeling terrible, feeling confused, feeling ripped apart. we get to decide. And I think it's kind of, there's so many levels to this, because that's exactly what this new moon and eclipse is trying to get us to witness. And it's also because it's Sagittarian energy, which is so hopeful and philosophical and playful and curious and wants us to expand. But it's also, I think, a question of what do we want to take from these last 18 months and how do we want to start talking about ourselves. So I'm going to be doing a proper activation of this new moon and total solar eclipse over on my Patreon. We're also going to be getting into these nodal shifts, Venus retrograde, which is coming up in just a few weeks. It's going to be an active and very interesting December, January. I can tell you that. And I am going to be walking us through that step by step, giving lots of tools and ways to work with and reflect on all of these energy shifts in ways that I think are going to be really beautiful and helpful. So I'll leave that link below if you want to join me on the journey. You can also find me on my Instagram and my website. So I will leave all of those links below. I love you all so much. Have a gorgeous eclipse in Sagittarius, and I will see you very, very soon for our next chat.